Hey, my steaks just came. They arrived at my door, fresh frozen, straight from Kansas City. I got 8-ounce New York strip steaks from Kansas City Steak Company. They've been around since 1932. They know how to do it. They age it for 28 to 35 days. And you know what? Aged steak is a better steak, and we're gonna talk about that in a little while. We're gonna talk about how to cook them, and we're gonna talk about why the New York strip steak is America's favorite cut. But they come in 3 flavors. You have the rosemary garlic, you have sweet tangy onion, and you have my personal favorite, the original. They're individually cryo-packed and separated for you, so you can take out one, or you can take out all 8 if you want, but it's steak marinated in steak juices. Now, let's talk about the strip steak for a second. On one side of the steak spectrum, we have ribeye. What's great about ribeye is it's got a lot of fat, and that means it's got a lot of flavor. But if you're watching your weight, it does have a lot of fat. The filet mignon is so delicious and so tender and so very lean. It's actually great if you're watching your weight, but it lacks some of the flavor of the ribeye. Now, you want the best of both worlds? Well, how about a strip steak? A strip steak has just enough fat, but not too much, and it's lean, but it still has great flavor. It's gonna sear up beautifully, and because it has a little fat, it's gonna melt in your mouth and give you that wonderful steak flavor. You know, steak actually comes from a steer. Now, right over here, this is about where we get a lot of our hamburger meat, our stew meat, and things like that. Right about here is our ribs, short ribs, things like that. On the bone, you gotta love it. Right over here is the short loin. Here's where our strip steak comes from, right about here. Now, that's why we talked about getting the best of both worlds, because here you have the tender and juicy filet mignon right about here. And our strip steak comes from right about there. So again, one of America's favorite cuts of beef, one of my favorites, and let me tell you, it's gonna cook up just wonderful. All right, I'm just gonna tell you that my favorite way to cook a steak is in a cast iron pan. What do I love about cast iron? Well, it kind of imparts some magical flavor into a steak. I can't explain it, but it's true, you just gotta trust me. So what I like to do is I like to salt both sides. And I'm using kosher salt. It's the salt that chefs like to use because it's easy to pinch and it's easy to spread. Then you gotta use cracked black pepper on a steak. I mean, it's the only way to do it. My pan has been heating up for over 5 minutes. It's really hot. I like to say smoking hot. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little oil. I like to use peanut oil. I know it's expensive, but you're only putting a little bit on. And what peanut oil does, it has a really good flash point for steaks. You don't have to worry about it burning. I hate when my oil burns. You don't want that on your steak. So we're just gonna slather these up with some oil, and then we're just gonna place them in our pan. Now, I always like to tell people when they're cooking steak, you have to have some patience, because if you go to try to turn those now, they're gonna stick to the pan. They don't wanna be turned yet. About a minute on each side, you're gonna get a beautiful sear. We want it to be nice and brown and crispy, and I'm gonna show you what to do after we're done cooking. We're gonna do a little searing, we're gonna roast them up really quickly, and then I'm gonna show you how to make a real quick pan sauce. These strip steaks are gonna be awesome. Okay, about a minute ago, I just sort of positioned the steak a little bit differently so I could get a really nice mark on there. Some people call it crosshatch, but you know, here it's just the cast iron skillet gives you great marks on the steak. Those marks are flavor. Those marks are gonna end up in the bottom of my pan, then I'm gonna deglaze those, and that's gonna be part of our pan sauce. Show you the really good way to eat a strip steak. Okay, so we seared our steaks. They're beautifully browned. Now I'm gonna pop them into the oven. We call this sear and roast. So about 2 minutes on these steaks. After I cook them for about 2 minutes on each side on the oven, in 2 minutes they're gonna be perfect, but we still have to let them rest for a minute. Then we'll make our sauce. It's time to eat. Okay, it's time to make our pan sauce. I took all the brown bits that are still in the pan, put it back on the burner. I'm gonna let it go for a second. I'm gonna add some onion just for some flavor. We're gonna let those go for a second. Then I'm gonna put some herbs down. Now what I'm gonna do is once my pan is hot again, I'm going to put some stock. I'm gonna let that cook down. I want my flavor to concentrate, so I want this to reduce by about half. Once this comes down about to half, I'm gonna throw in some butter. That's gonna put a beautiful sheen on this sauce. I'm gonna pour them over my steaks that have rested. They're gonna taste so good. You know, let me tell you, in the restaurant, things taste better because they use butter, trust me. This butter, you're only gonna get a little bit on the sauce, don't worry about it. It's gonna taste great. You're eating a nice lean cut of meat. We're just gonna let this go for about another 30 seconds. Now I get my beautiful sauce. Look how concentrated it is. And oh man, look at that. Nice, thick, delicious sauce. All right, so it's as easy as that. 5 or 10 minutes of cooking. I got my beautiful Kansas City strip steaks. I still have 6 left. Call QVC or click to order item number M19853 from Kansas City Steak Company. It's your choice of 8 8-ounce strip steaks in the original flavor, rosemary, garlic, or onion flavors. They'll come right to your door. They ship with 5 pounds of dry ice to keep them fresh. Don't worry if there's not much dry ice left. As long as they've got ice crystals on them, your steaks are safe to eat. So that's the Q story on Kansas City Steaks. I'm Eric Theiss. Thanks for watching. I'm starving. I'm out of here.